Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this week's weekly media briefing with the County Executive Marc Elrich. I'm Mary Anderson with the County's Office of Public Information. As a reminder, this briefing is being recorded. Joining us today is County Executive Marc Elrich. We also have members of the HHS team, including Dr. James Bridgers, Director of the County's Department of Health and Human Services, Dr. Keisha Davis, County Health Officer, Sean O'Donnell, Deputy Chief of Public Health Services in HHS. And also joining us today is Assistant Chief Administrative Officer Earl Stoddard. Today we also have a special guest with us, Anthony Featherstone, who is the Executive Director of WorkSource Montgomery. If you've got a general question during the briefing, please save those until after we've gone through the Q&A on the specific presentation with Mr. Featherstone. And with that, I will toss it over to you, Mr. County Executive.
Thank you very much, and thank you everybody for joining us today. This week is Easter break week for MCPS, and this weekend we're celebrating the Easter and Passover holidays for many people in Montgomery County. I hope that all those who are taking this time off to have safe travels, to enjoy their little vacations, and to take and if you're sticking around here, take the opportunity to explore the cultural attractions that we have throughout the county. There's a lot to do around here. I also want to welcome back the MCFRS Urban Search and Rescue team that was deployed in response to the devastating flooding in Kentucky. They worked long hours in really difficult conditions, searching homes, conducting rescues, and providing support where it's needed most. They even evacuated people and pets, and they're preparing for next day's operations while getting the rest they need. I also want to thank the Family Support Network here back home. They've made sure the loved ones are informed and taken care of. This is a reminder of the professionalism, skill, and humanity that define our public safety teams. I think if you've noticed, our teams go out sometimes multiple times a year to help in disasters around the country. You've heard me say this before, this team is one of the best group of ambassadors of this county government. No matter where the disaster occurs or who's being impacted, they arrive to help. This morning, I attended the University of Maryland's career fair for displaced federal workers, contractors, nonprofits, and vendors at the Silver Spring Civic Center. This event attracted more than 1,200 people looking for work or training. There were over 40 different state and local government agencies, academic institutions, and private companies sharing job opportunities. These organizations weren't just from Montgomery County, but there were people here recruiting from Bowie, from Frederick County, and beyond. So it was an opportunity for people to come in and see opportunities that many organizations are posting right now. Another 22 organizations were there to help with resume writing, interview prep, and career support. The number of attendees at this event underscores the fact that a lot of federal employees and workers who rely on federal government are dealing with chaos and uncertainty. Jobs are being cut, programs are being frozen, and people who've spent their careers serving the public are being told they may not have a place anymore, and we're not okay with that. One of the groups here today assisting attendees is Civic Match, who is connecting people with state and local government jobs that fit their skills. Civic Match is building a pipeline for experienced public service to stay in public service, even if they've been displaced by federal changes. I wish I could say that all of us had enough empty jobs in our agencies to take care of all these people, but the reality is we don't. Hopefully the private sector can amplify what we're able to do. And we know that in the life sciences, that people are finding people who were dismissed from their life sciences work at NIH or companies that support NIH's work. They're able to find other jobs, but we don't honestly believe we're going to have enough jobs related to the number of people who've lost their jobs. We just have to keep trying to do as much as we can. We also want residents to use our WorkSource Montgomery and our Mobilize Montgomery resources. These programs are helping residents build skills, update resumes, and find their way into jobs, whether they're just getting started or looking to shift careers. And we're identifying county positions that align with federal experience to help make the transition easier. I wanted to have Anthony Featherstone, the Executive Director of WorkSource Montgomery, join me again today on this briefing to provide an update on what they've been seeing on the ground at their career centers and at events like the job fair we're having today. So Anthony, thanks for being back on the briefing and for a strong leadership you've provided to WorkSource Montgomery at a time when so many of our residents are looking for job resources and training. So I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Mr. County Executive. It's always a pleasure to be here, and we appreciate your support and appreciate the platform to be able to talk about what we're seeing in our job centers and the services that we're offering. WorkSource Montgomery is the county's lead workforce organization, and so our role is to ensure residents have quality services and tools to get into career pathways and to work with businesses to ensure that they have the talent they need to grow and thrive. One thing that we're seeing with the federal reductions is a more competitive job market, and so we are tailoring services to make sure that our federal workers and contractors who are affected and all of our residents can ensure that they are as competitive as possible as they step into a job market where they're competing against a lot of qualified workers or candidates that are going for the same positions. And so you mentioned Mobilize Montgomery. Mobilize Montgomery is a coalition of organizations that includes Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation, WorkSource Montgomery, county government, our local chambers, Maryland Department of Labor. And through this coalition, we're committed to providing a unified voice to bring all of the services and resources that are offered through many different organizations to Montgomery County residents, job seekers, federal workers and contractors who are impacted by the RIFs. And so if you want to know more about Mobilize Montgomery, you can visit the website at mobilize-montgomery.com. And there'll be a comprehensive list of all the resources available to job seekers here in the county and within the region. For WorkSource Montgomery, we have a variety of services that we're offering and that are quite frankly being utilized at a high level today within our job centers, both in person and virtually. So I always start with UI assistance, unemployment insurance assistance. So if you are unemployed and receiving unemployment insurance or trying to apply for unemployment insurance, there is assistance at the American Job Center located at 11510 Georgia Avenue in Wheaton. And you can walk in anytime Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 and get help in person. We have a job search platform, Maryland Workforce Exchange, that has thousands of open jobs right now. And so you can post your resume and search for jobs and connect with employers directly through that platform. If you're looking to strengthen your skills, we have our Skill Up Montgomery Virtual Training Center that offers over 6,000 training modules, whether they're certification programs or professional development. If you are unsure of what your next step is, we offer virtual career coaching and in-person career coaching. But through our virtual career coaching program, you're able to take an assessment as short as 6 questions or as intensive as 60 questions and figure out what your strengths, interests, work values are and figure out what the opportunities are here in Montgomery County and the region, as well as statewide. We also subscribe to the Google Career Dreamer platform. This is a new platform that was released by Google in February of this year. And it's an innovative tool that helps you take the job that you're doing, the jobs that you've done, and it helps you find the opportunities that are available today. And so it will take that information and actually do a job search for you and put those opportunities in front of you so you can put a quality application in to those employers. And I think lastly, is with the job fair today in partnership with the University of Maryland and the Maryland Department of Labor. We are offering workshops and job fairs around the clock. And so all of our events for workshops and job fairs can be found on our calendar at our website. And so workshops may include professional headshots, customizing your resume, turning it from a public resume to a private sector resume, and job fairs from an industry standpoint or widespread job fairs. And so for all of our resources and services, we encourage everybody to visit our website at worksourcemontgomery.com or visit us in one of our job centers, most notably 11510 Georgia Avenue in Wheaton. And we're here to assist you and support you to find your next step. And so with that, Mr. County Executive, I'll say thanks again for the time and I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Anthony. You've been doing really great work, and I appreciate everything you're doing. And I know what we're doing right now is not easy. Hang in there.
Thank
Any
you.
questions?
Members of the media, if you've got any questions related to this workforce topic, please raise your hand and I will call on you. I am not seeing any hands up. Second call for any questions about workforce issues. You make sure I've got all the people on the screen. I think that's it. Okay, Mr. County Executive, or I'm sorry, we'll turn it back over to you.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Anthony, again. And I just want to emphasize just a couple of quick points. First, our media will publicize that for those going through job and income loss, it's a very difficult period of transition. If anyone is struggling with their mental health, we encourage them to reach out to our 24-hour crisis center, 240-777-4000, or you can dial 988, and that will also get you into the crisis center. Another news on local and emerging news is we know that federal immigration enforcement is beginning to ramp up. It was reported last week that federal agents from the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI have commenced what are being called wellness checks on the homes of migrant and immigrant families around the country. While you have not heard of any of these here in Montgomery County yet, I have serious concerns about why this is happening. First place, it's hard to take the concept of child wellness checks for immigrant children seriously because this is the president who separated children from parents and put them in cages. He has a long history of not being concerned about child welfare, and his policies in general show zero concern for child welfare. So the idea that you're doing this special effort for the immigrant children is touching, but it's also completely bogus. What they're really doing is targeting children as a pretense to get into access to people's homes where they can observe the layout and can get a sense of who lives there in order to facilitate the more drastic actions that are yet to come. This is shameful, and it's perverse to pretend that the president and his cronies care about child welfare, immigrant or otherwise. Furthermore, we've seen plenty of news reports about agents showing up in unmarked vehicles and I lost my feed here. Hold on a second. Yep, much better. We've had agents showing up in unmarked vehicles and covering their faces and arriving without clear coordination with local authorities. This has got to be terrifying, and it undermines good governments. It certainly undermines the trust we have with the immigrant community and our legitimate police officers in Montgomery County. We've never seen this kind of approach to federal immigration and the deportation process before, not even in Trump's first term. So let me be clear. I expect any federal law enforcement federal law enforcement official who is making a lawful apprehension in Montgomery County to be showing their identification of who they are and who they're with, and not wearing a mask or a face covering while apprehending an individual. We know the president doesn't believe in masks, so they're not wearing them for health purposes. So there's no need to wear the mask if you're not worried about health. If you're going to do this dirty work, at least own it. Every day we inch closer and closer to fascist practices that typify the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany. Our country fought a war. Our grandparents laid down their lives to keep fascism from coming to America. And now it's coming here, carried by people who wrap themselves in the American flag. This reminds me of a famous quote from pre-World War II days from Martin Niemöller in Germany. And he wrote, first they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I wasn't a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. This is not the road this country needs to be going down. And we expect the same level of transparency and justice from any federal officers as the community would expect out of MCPD or any local or state law enforcement entity. I also want to remind everyone that our policy here in Montgomery, what our policy here is in Montgomery County, Our police officers do not engage in federal immigration enforcement activities. That's not new. It's a result of an executive order, but this has been practice for even before the time I issued my executive order, and it's been reviewed and approved by the Maryland Attorney General's office. Everybody we've worked with has made it clear that the local county governments are not responsible for enforcement of federal immigration law. We don't want anyone to avoid calling the police when they need help. We don't want parents to be afraid of bringing their children to school. We don't want people hiding in the shadows because they're afraid of being targeted just because they're here. At the same time, we're not interfering in federal law enforcement actions. That's not our role. We do have a responsibility to make sure our residents know their rights, understand what's happening, and have access to trusted information and resources. Too often, this level of fear and paranoia, and that's being intentionally stoked by the president, leads to misinformation as well as false sightings and rumors that take on lives of their own. We've seen these things already. That's why we encourage anyone with questions or concerns to contact the Gilchrist Immigration Resource Center. The staff there can help contact you with legal support, language assistance, and information about your rights under the law. We're a county that believes in protecting the dignity and safety of all people, regardless of immigration status. This April, we're celebrating Earth Month across Montgomery County, and we've already had some great events. We are marking the 10th anniversary of our Tree Montgomery program, which has planted more than 18,000 shade trees at schools, homes, places of worship, and throughout our neighborhoods. And later this month, we'll celebrate 10 years of Greenfest, our largest and most popular environmental event. These programs matter. They connect people to action. They show how local governments can support healthier communities and a more sustainable future. But I also want to acknowledge what's happening beyond our county, because this Earth Month comes at a very difficult time. We've already seen this administration dismantle parts of HHS, NIH, and FDA, and more. Now they're turning their attention to climate and earth science, targeting the work being done by NOAA and NASA, two of the most important scientific agencies we have when it comes to understanding climate change and protecting lives from extreme weather. And I want to point out that these agencies are recognized internationally for the work they do and for what they contribute globally to understanding of what's happening with the climate. So this isn't just a ding on the United States, it's going to be a ding on research everywhere. The Union of Concerned Scientists produced a piece on April 16th, and it's 5 reasons NOAA and NASA cuts will be disastrous for everyone in the U.S. If you get a chance, take a look at this. What the government doing is reckless. They're undermining decades of progress that the public depends on for early warnings and for research and for long-term planning. This also hits close to home. We have hundreds of residents in our county and across the region who work at NOAA in Silver Spring or College Park and NASA Goddard in Greenbelt. These are people who've dedicated their careers to understanding our planet and helping keep communities safe. And now their work is under threat. These cuts aren't abstract. They're going to slow down climate monitoring. They're going to weaken effective weather prediction. They're going to make it harder to respond to natural disasters in a timely manner, and which we know are becoming more severe and more frequent. And sometimes, like the issue with the flooding in Kentucky, occurring at levels that haven't occurred before. This is a real fear. And I want to remind people of something that happened during the president's last term. When he actually told people that a hurricane wasn't going to land where the climate maps or the weather maps said the hurricane was going to land. He completely distorted reality. And had first responders followed the president's distortion of reality rather than what the weather people were telling them, they would have been in the wrong place at the wrong time when the hurricane hit, creating far worse impacts for the people who got hammered by that hurricane. Fortunately, the president was ignored, but he did not admit he was wrong. Absolutely not. He never does. It's another step backward, another reversal in real climate progress. that we were making under the Biden administration. So yes, we're going to keep celebrating Earth Month. We're going to keep planting trees, expanding solar, pushing towards zero emissions transit, and holding polluters accountable. But we're also going to keep calling out the attacks on science and standing up for the people who do this work every day. If we want to build a future that's safe and sustainable, we're not going to do this by ignoring threats and refusing to learn and to stay silent while progress is being torn down. Silent is not something we're going to be. I'm going to turn this over to my HHS team for their update, and then we'll take questions.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. County Executive. We do just want to highlight briefly, I think folks know that April is Minority Health Month, and as you mentioned, it is also an Earth Day and Environmental Health Month, and want to highlight the interaction that happens between minority health and environmental justice. And in Montgomery County, we see that communities of color often bear a disproportionate burden of environmental risks, whether it's poor air quality, limited access to green space, or proximity to high traffic corridors or industrial zones. These environmental conditions can contribute to higher rates of asthma, cardiovascular disease, and other chronic health conditions in our communities. Health equity and environmental justice are deeply interconnected, and we can't close health gaps without addressing those pieces of where people live, work, and play. And our department is committed to working with community partners and agencies and residents, regardless of zip code, to make sure that folks have access to clean air, safe housing, and healthy environments. I also want to recognize last week was National Public Health Week, and so I want to thank the team. We invited Dr. Georges Benjamin to join us. And this weekend, in honor of National Black Maternal Health Week, we also had our annual Right from the Start event. Again, recognizing the disparity that exists within Black maternal health outcomes. In the United States, our maternal health outcomes are poor across the board when we compare to other countries across the world. Next behind us, and similarly wealthy countries, we are the worst, and behind us is Chile. When we look at those rates, while there has been some improvement in the rates overall for women, we have seen a worsening of the disparity for Black women, and they suffer 4 times the rates of morbidity and pregnancy compared to white women. And so we thank our partnerships, the Babies Born Healthy program, the SMILE program within the African American Health Program, for their efforts in addressing the disparity. And we applaud the efforts of our hospitals that are starting to see some promising trends in reducing Black maternal morbidity and mortality. With that, I will turn it over to Mr. Sean O'Donnell.
Good afternoon. There are no public health updates on infectious diseases at this time. So I'd like to see if Dr. Stoddard has anything additional he'd like to add.
I did have one thing. So this week marks National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week as well. And so I just want to give a shout out to our 911 operators who often do a critical job in our health infrastructure. And they also often go unappreciated for that work. It's a tough job. It's a stressful job. It's a job that you're talking to people during what very well could be their best day, and you hang up and you have to take the next call, and that may be the next person's worst day. And so it is a very difficult job. It strains our call takers a lot, and they do a really great job of making sure we get the right resources to the right place with great consistency. And so I just want to thank them for those efforts during this National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week.
Dr. Bridgers, did you have anything to add?
Sure, just a couple of points, Mary. Thank you so much. Just a couple of items to restate. Thank you, Mr. County Executive, for supporting the job fair today. I don't see Mr. Featherstone on, but in partnership with our public and private sector and WorkSource Montgomery for identifying those positions. I'd also like to thank Dr. Davis as well for helping to lead some of the identification of over 40 positions that we had available today for the job fair, many of them clinical in nature, but some program staff vacancies as well. And lastly, to restate that Montgomery County's Department of Health and Human Services is available for support for individuals who are experiencing a job loss or any life-changing event. Again, the number's in the chat box, but I will restate it: 240-777-4000. Thank you, Mary. I will turn it back over to you to facilitate the question and answering, or if Mr. County Executive has any other comments to make
Yeah.
before.
I want to make some just a couple of quick comments before we take the questions. One is, I just want to emphasize the work done by our call center team. This is a place where if people are looking for work, we're definitely looking for employees there. So if you're out of work, this is it's a very fulfilling job. I'm not going to pretend that it's not stressful, but it's a very fulfilling job in the sense you really make a difference in people's lives. And for those of you who are mission driven to do that, you might consider getting a job at our call center. It really would make a difference, and it would help us relieve some of the load that many of our call center members, find themselves under. And I want to thank Dr. Davis and Dr. Bridges, particularly for the work they're doing. I'm sure the reporters realize how many words that they used that they wouldn't be allowed to use under the Trump administration if this was a Trump proposal. The idea that you cannot look at why infant mortality is different for people of different races is insane. But it is policy of the federal government. You can't do any research where the research indicates it's targeted at a minority or, frankly, women. So this kind of death of research that actually kills knowledge so that you're not able to do things that would make people healthier and make people's lives better is a bridge this country has not crossed before. We used to celebrate scientific advances and discovery. We used to celebrate NIH and all the work it does. And what this administration is doing is making a joke out of some of the leading institutions in this country and trying to destroy them, all for the same purpose. I've said this before. They do not want information. They do not want causes, because they want to make sure that if they find causes, they would be obligated to act on those causes. They want to make sure they don't find anything because they don't want to regulate anything. And so this is willful ignorance is what they're passing off on the American people. And it's amazing to me. I have a lot of Republican friends who are not that rabidly conservative and who have an appreciation and have always had appreciation for things like NIH and scientific research. And I wish more of them would speak out on these issues, because this should not be a partisan issue. It shouldn't be Democrats versus Republicans on whether or not we're going to do research on healthcare. This should be something that everybody does. So I'll stop there.
Thank you. Members of the media, any questions for the county executive or members of our public health team? Going once. Going twice. Okay, I don't see any questions. I thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you again next time. Have a nice afternoon.
Bye.
Ike's response was simple and powerful. It was to build a larger table.
Before his election as the county executive, Leggett was also the first person of color to serve on the county council from 1986 to 2002, where he was council president 3 times.
And when he became a lawyer and decided to run for public office, the times were different. And he made a strategic decision not to put his photograph